Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Eye of Africa. I am your host, Aina Fadina. Today we are here with Essie Bartels. She is the founder of Essie Spice. Essie, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Aina.
I really appreciate it. We've
Absolutely.
been trying to get this sorted out for
Yes,
the past few months
yes,
now. So
absolutely.
thank you.
I'm honored. This is great. I'm excited.
Thank you. As you know already, you're someone I greatly admire as an entrepreneur, as a one-woman entity. So you've been around the world. You're born in Ghana.
Yes.
What was it like growing up in Ghana?
Growing up in Ghana, it was hot. Definitely not this kind of weather. It was beautiful, it was hot. Everyone that's been to Ghana knows that we're one of the most hospitable people. I grew up in a big family. And my dad was a lawyer. My mom had businesses. She had import and export, and she also did cosmetics. And so I grew up back home. I went to middle school, primary school, high school, and then I moved here when I was 18 for college.
So the one term that you used to describe yourself is you're a mixologist.
Yes, yes, I am a mixologist.
So,
tell you more about that.
Tell me more, because I think about mixologists, I think about alcohol.
Absolutely. So the thing about spices that I love is when I was growing up, my mom would travel to UK for her export business and would bring back the spice racks. And she would only use, they're usually like maybe 16 or 20 different spices on there. And she would only use like 3 or 4.
Right.
Curry.
Yeah.
maybe paprika.
Yeah.
Basil, just a few of them, and she'll leave everything else because she didn't know what to do with it, or she didn't think it would work with any of her food, so she just leave it. So that was when I started experimenting. What does this do? It's like Dexter's Laboratory. What does this button do? So I'll try this one, I'll try that one, and I would just mix things up. She didn't like it because it's not traditional. She wants me to use what we use at home.
Right.
So that's when that whole spark started. Also coupled with studying science in high school, where I'm experimenting, I'm mixing values, I'm doing things in the lab. So I think the science and the experiments is what helped me, because what I'm seeing now is there are a lot of other brands that are coming out with like spice blends and things like that. But a lot of them are using like Maggi, or using Knorr or Royco. If you take that out of whatever it is that they have, there's nothing. So what I decided to do is not to use those things and to just create from scratch and use that in my product.
If I give you $1 million, it's like, you know what to spend that $1 million, because you ran your operations like by yourself.
Right.
We're at the first store.
Yes, this is the first store that stocked my sauces. This is Cuisines. So I literally deconstructed what you would put in Maggi, and I decided to put it in my sauces without all the colors and the MSG and the additives and all that. So then that's why this is not gonna last forever. Once you open it, you have to put it in the fridge. It's fresh. It's
What's the shelf life for this?
This one is about 10 weeks.
I think the beauty about your product is there's a huge influence of going to the local market, growing up with your mother.
Absolutely.
And I've been, growing up, I hated it. It's like she's dragging you from this
one
woman
stall to
woman,
this stall,
and then you're just
she's gonna ask like 5 people the same thing and pick one,
and then go back to the first
one,
absolutely.
So
I think for me, those childhood memories, I wasn't very fond of it.
Right.
It's hot. You're being dragged around this market, and she's kind of negotiating with the consumers. But I think what I realize is women in our society, I'll speak specifically to Nigeria, for example, they are the ones that hold the community together because they are controlling the markets.
Absolutely.
So how has that influenced your work as an entrepreneur, as a woman, and just bringing that to the flavors of what you're doing?
So my mother is my biggest inspiration. My mother is, every time I say it, I literally feel like I'm gonna cry. She is the most hardworking woman I have ever met in my life. For my mother, there was no excuse for anything. It was like, you have to get up and go. My mom would come back from London from traveling for work. She'll probably rest for like 2 hours and then she's back to the store. Like that's her. She's go, 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 go. And she's always taught me that I have to have something for myself. Just as you said, going through the market, seeing all these women, how hard they work. So for me, I look at those people, I'm like, they can do it, so I don't have an excuse. So yeah, I draw definitely my ethics and my hard work from those people. So I source directly from Ghana, my spices, the dry spices. I source it from one woman, Ajia, in Makola. Makola is the biggest open market in Accra. What my mom did was she originally would import spices and herbs and oils and tubers. Whatever it is that the stores in the US and London need, she would buy it and distribute it. So as she was bringing it, she would bring me some spices and then I would use it for whatever at home, for home use. And so now, instead of getting little quantities of it, we get everything from Ajia. So for Ajia, it means a lot because all the business is coming directly to her. I'm not sourcing from all these different people. So
I think the beauty about your product is also you've used that and influenced your travels around the world. You're an avid traveler.
Avid traveler, yes.
Yes, you've taken spices from like different places that have inspired you.
Absolutely.
And you created this amazing product line.
Right, yeah. So growing up, I keep telling everyone I feel more comfortable in the sky than on land. I really do. I actually feel very zen when I'm flying. So I think it's also because my mom would travel even before she had me. When she was pregnant, she was still working. So I think even from the womb, I've always loved to fly. I would travel all over Western Europe. And then for the spices and the sauces, the inspiration, especially for let's say the tamarind sauce. I had just gone to visit my friend in Mexico and I was leaving and she bought me these candies. They were tamarind candies.
Oh, I see.
And the tamarind candies, they were so good, but tamarind is naturally very sour.
Yeah.
Most of the part, sometimes a little sweet, but mostly sour. And so for them to make it that sweet, it meant they added a whole lot of sugar to it. So when I brought it back, I'm like, this is so good, but I can't keep eating it. It's like too much sugar. But I didn't want to throw it away because it was good. And then this is where like the experimentation comes in. Like, I don't know, people ask, so how did you know to do that? I don't know. That's how my brain works. I feel like, you know, we have Einstein and then we have me, and this is what I do, you know? So I decide then to take the candies, melt them down, and put them on chicken wings. I don't know why, I just did it, and it was amazing. And then I'm like, I have to recreate this, just not with as much sugar. So what's gonna balance it off? That's sweet, that's not so much sugar. And I also love guava, and guava is naturally sweet. And so then I added the guava to balance off the sourness of the tamarind sauce. For my dry blend, I love Asian food. Next to Ghanaian food, my next favorite food is Thai food. I love Asian food. So I love those Asian flavors, the lemongrass, the star anise, the cardamom. And so I said, how do I incorporate that into something that we already have that's gonna make it like pow? And so then if you know suya, that's something that literally across the coast of West Africa, if you go to Senegal, you'll find it. Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, we all use it. So I told my spice lady in Ghana to make me, you know, the ground peanuts, make that for me. And then when she brings it, I add the spices. She adds the spices from Ghana, the alligator pepper, the grains of selim, and then the ground nutmeg. And then I add the star anise, the cardamom and the curries. And then now, so when somebody from Asia tries it, they're like, this tastes like something from, you know, from where I'm from. And then if somebody from West Africa tries it, so they also identify with it. And that's what I wanted to do, for people to identify their flavors, but also identify that there's something different about it, something foreign.
I love this.
Yeah, that's my mom and my grandmother.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this is, you know, history in a jar.
In a jar.
Yeah.
I love how you have dressed stews.
Yes.
Not soups.
No. I know, this is the thing with like, we never got it with Nigerian. You guys call soup stew. Or was it stew, soup? It's like very liquidy, but then you call it stew. I'm like, no.
So we call stew, so we call okra soup.
Yes.
And then we call stew like sauce.
I
Like,
don't,
stew.
yeah, like, so I don't know. Like, I
So
was
what do you guys call it? Is it the reverse?
yeah, we call soup, if it's something that's very liquidy, we call it soup, but you guys call it stew.
Yeah, we call it stew.
Yeah, but a stew is something that's quite thick, almost like
I
chutney.
actually never thought about that.
Yeah,
actually.
stews are, you know, full. Yeah, but anyway, that's just another
Another conversation.
Niger and everybody else conversation.
It's like it's like how Americans are like there's America and then there's the rest of the world.
Yes,
There's
they have their
Nigeria,
own, yes, and then the rest,
Africa.
exactly. So yeah.
That's the beauty of the world we're living in today.
Right.
I say we
Absolutely.
live in it's a globalization of cultures
Absolutely,
mixing together. You know, it's not one thing where, okay, this is that and that's that
that.
over there.
Right, exactly.
Anymore. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So being part of the tastemakers of who are doing that.
Right. So I keep telling everyone, like, if you think about your diet today, no, the 21st century person is not eating just Italian food because they're Italian. They're eating fast food. They're eating, you know, whatever. They're having coffee. They're having French food. They're having Chinese. They're ordering Chinese takeout. So everybody's eating food from around the world, wherever. So is it authentically Ghanaian? I think it is because I'm making it.
Yeah.
So it is. The spices, all of them, all the sauces have Ghanaian spices in them. And so, yes, it is. And then it also borrows from around the world, the flavors that I love, because it's literally my voice in the sauces.
Absolutely.
It's a culmination of everything that I am. So all the places that I've been, when I lived in Europe, they love to cook with garlic and roasted bell peppers and things like that. I said, how can I incorporate that into a sauce?
Yeah.
So that's how I came up with my cocoa for garlic sauce. But instead of using olive oil, I use coconut oil, which is what we use back home a lot more, and roasted garlic peppers. And then it also has the grains of psyllium. So a lot of people are like, this is so familiar, but there's something about it that I can't.
You can't place.
It's because I'm literally picking things that you would never put together. Doesn't make sense, but when you put it in the sauce, it makes sense because of the balance.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
We've talked on so many occasions when it comes to like the whole notion of like entrepreneurship. It's one thing to, you know, because you're literally in the kitchen, you're making the stuff all by yourself. It's one thing to be there. It's another thing to like, okay, what's the retail strategy? And then what's the marketing strategy? You're running a one-woman entity.
She's downstairs? All right, let's go see Donna. Donna is amazing. Everyone needs a Donna. I'm good. Hi, good. There she is. That's Donna. Hi. How are you?
Donna, very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so Donna is amazing. Donna is the first person to say, I like this, let's stock it, I'll give you a chance. And aside from that, just leaving it on the shelf, Donna is always like, oh, you like tamarind? Try this sauce. And she would buy it.
And I try to really promote it, especially small, local, independent.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's bought it and given it to people as well.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's not just allowing it to sit on the shelf and sell. She's very proactive. Donna is always helpful. And they always feed me when I'm here. When I'm here,
When we have the demo, she makes such great stuff. People really love it. You've always had
they
very
love
good
it.
response. And also, there's a lot of people think about the product, but like, what's the Exactly. A product is a product. I mean, good, bad, otherwise. But the story and the face and the person really does help sell the product. That's why I like to have the demos, because people can really
She's
connect.
like, when are you coming? When are you coming next? Yeah, they love it. You know, when you love something so much and you put already so much into it, and you actually also see how far it can go, then you can't quit. You can't stop. You have to keep going. So for me, when people ask that, there's a lot of things that inspire me. As I said, my mother, and I remember it was literally last year. That was the first time she said, "I am proud of you." Aww. And for me, that meant a lot. When she told me she was proud of me, I froze. I'm like, what? Yeah. She said, "You know what? You're going on a very difficult path. I can't believe you actually decided, okay, I'm not going back to the corporate world. I'm going to do this, and for you to do this and to stick with it and to see all this." And this is before like a lot of these major publications published me. So for her to say that, it meant so much, because my mom is so difficult to please. Like nothing impresses my mother, nothing. So I'm doing this for her, for my mother, to validate her dreams, to validate everything that she couldn't do. First and foremost, of course, for my family, my dad, of course, but mostly to make my mother proud. But also, when it comes to balancing everything, it's tough. You're going to have to give up on a lot of things. I have had to give up on time with family, time with friends, partying. That doesn't exist in my vocabulary. There's no such thing as partying for me. There's no such thing as hanging out. I usually take time out once a year around my birthday just to regroup, and that's pretty much it. And that's what it's been for the past 3 years. It's prior to me losing my job last year in November. I would work full time, get home, do Essie Spice, and then on the weekends do Essie Spice as well. But the problem with that is the store managers and a lot of these magazines and meetings and stuff like that, they all want to meet you during the day, and they don't want to meet you on the weekends. And the time when you're done with work, they're done with work too. Absolutely. So I would always, push things away. Oh, I'm working, I can't meet you, and this, that, and the other. And so nothing happened.
You weren't ready.
I wasn't ready. Nothing happened for 2.5 years. Nothing happened. It was like I just kept. I was in this cycle, literally like the hamster going around the wheel, and it felt like nothing was happening. After I lost my job, I got 2 offers from 2 really big companies, because my LinkedIn is popping. And I said, you know what, let me give Essie Spice 6 months full-time attention. If Essie Spice does not work in the next 6 months, then I'll take the offer, or I'll look for another job. And in those 6 months, I got into Whole Foods. Wow. In those 6 months, I got into ShopRite.
And you've gone from being a chemist to working in the corporate world. Yes. And then going back to being a chemist. What did the corporate world teach you, though? Because I think there's value there.
Oh my God. So when I worked in global procurement, what I did was I negotiated a lot of agreements and contracts. And it's crazy how we don't value things that we do in our past, but everything literally builds you up and puts you in line of what you're supposed to be doing. When I was working full time, one of the reasons I left my last job in Unilever to go to this new job where I lost my job was because they were paying me higher. And my thought process was, if they're paying me higher, then I can move more money to Essie Spice and put it to Essie Spice. This way, then I would own it and I wouldn't have anyone else owning it. And so that's what I've done. I haven't taken out any bank loans. I haven't taken out any investments. But then that also means I have no money. All because I know how big Essie Spice is going to get. And I know that if I get in investors too early, I'm literally gonna not have anything. I'm gonna sell myself short. And so, I feel like it's a suffer now and then reap later. So I own it 100%. And then hopefully in the future, which is coming up soon, I can get some investors in. But because I've been able to do it for so long up to this time, it's a better situation than if I had gotten investors right at the beginning or too early. It would have been,
I kind of want to ask, like, what's the biggest insult you received in terms of offer?
Oh my God!
Because I think people are like, oh, I want to get an investor. I want to get an investor. It's like you don't understand the processes you need to put in place to run your business to make sure. Like, what is the investor doing for you that you can't do for yourself?
Right.
So, how do you go about turning? Because I'm sure you've gotten offers before.
Yes.
And how do you go about, and why have you said no to these things? In addition to what you mentioned earlier.
Right. So this is so hilarious because it's just too funny. I don't even know where to start. So what I'm offering now as investment opportunities are convertible securities of deposit, which means I will take on whatever investment that whoever wants to give me. They would and then I would pay back in a certain number of years that's agreed upon between two parties. And if I'm not able to, then that money will go to shares at the time of my company or equity. And of course, let's say it's another year or two, my company's valuation today will not be the same in 2 years. So then it's beneficial for me, but also for them, because they'll probably, what I will do is probably make it in such a way that because they invested early and they did that, they would have a discount. So it's not going to be the same as somebody coming in at that 2-year mark. Later on. So this is what I spoke with my investor friend who is like guiding me and advising me and lawyer. Someone I've known for a really long time, who I really admire, who a lot of people know, who I really respected, came to me and says, Essie, I want to give you $5,000 for 10% of your company.
Yikes.
Oh my God. I was like, where do you even start with something like that? Oh, and I have all these contacts and, you know, I'll give you my contacts and I'll give you my connections and all of this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? And so you deem all this work I've done to be worth $50,000. And so you want to get 10% so that in the next 5 years, you will not work anymore. I will just be working and you will be enjoying every day. You know what I mean? I was so appalled. It wasn't disgust. It was more of like, because it was somebody I know. If it's somebody you don't know, who doesn't know your business and doesn't know like what you've already put into it and also doesn't know about financing or anything like that, then you would say, okay, they didn't know. But this is somebody who does this on a daily basis. So they were trying to take advantage of me.
But I think that's the whole thing about when it comes to investors. They lowball you. And then if you're in a desperate situation, you're like, okay, I'll take it.
And trust me, at that time, I needed $5,000. I did. I still do. If somebody has it, give it to me. I'm so serious. I need $5,000 every day, you know? But, and when he said it, I didn't even finish reading where it said 10%. I was just 5. I was like, okay, what? For how much? 0.3%? What? You know? For him to say that, I was so disappointed. So, and then 10 minutes later, and this is all on email. So there's record. 10 minutes later, he says, oh no, let's move it to 150. I'm like, okay, so between now and 10 minutes ago, how did you evaluate? And that's when I knew he was just full of bull. But this is what entrepreneurs have to deal with, especially if you have put in all your money and nobody else started with you in the beginning. You have to be very careful. You have to talk to people who you trust and know that will have your back and know what they're talking about. And I'm lucky to have somebody like that, because if I didn't, I would be like, oh, 5,000. It's money now. I need it right now. Let me just do it. And you know, but you really, because sometimes it's people you know. It's people that think you're dumb or stupid. If I don't understand something, I always ask, because I know I don't know everything. I know how to make spices. I know how to cook. That I know. If there's anything else that I don't know about my business, I always get a second opinion. And
I think it just shows, you know, in terms of you understand your worth, the value of who you are, and not just you, but your business as well too. If you're able to do all these things to get into getting into a retail store, like all these chains you've mentioned, it's
huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
When I'm in, for example, when I'm in ShopRite, I don't see any African brands there.
Yeah.
There's I don't see any African brands in ShopRite. In any of my stores, I don't see, maybe North African.
Yeah.
Whole Foods, I don't.
Yeah.
There's this one other girl from Somalia. I think you know
Hawa.
Hawa, who makes sauces as well that are like so good, authentically Somalian. But that's about it. When it comes to West Africa, I don't see anybody on these shelves.
So what are your hopes for that? Because we just talked about the globalization of our culture. We're looking at, when you look at food, for example, we have people like Chef Pierre Tam, for example.
Absolutely.
We have Marcus Samuelson.
He's amazing.
We have all these African chefs who are kind of paving the way in the Western world.
They are.
So what are your hopes and your thoughts on how it can continue to sort of go on this journey, and for others to recognize, like, oh, we have amazing stuff. Exactly. And there's a market here.
Absolutely. I think the problem and the disconnect is that Africans think, oh, our food is good. If they don't like it, we don't care, kind of thing. And then Americans are like, well, it needs to be a certain way before we can even look at it. It's all about presentation. You can put two things next to each other. They can contain the same exact things, but if it's presented in a better way on one side than the other, you would pick it's just human nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the thing with our food is we need to start talking more about the health benefits. We need to start telling people about how good it is, the flavors, and then we also need to make them readily available. And packaging. There are a lot of things that are sold in African stores that will not pass any test. It will not pass FDA. It won't pass any test. And I know it because I buy there. I shop there. And I remember when I started, and my labels cost me, like, to design. These labels cost me over $1,000.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was like, this girl, why don't you just, this African store, just buy something and go and give it to them. They'll sell it. This thing is good. I'm like, Mommy, but I don't want to just be in that store. I want to be everywhere. I want to be able to be sold in Norway or in Denmark or in Japan. Anywhere. People should be able to pick it and say, this looks good. And not just be like, oh, I'm not going to touch that. I don't even know what it is. I don't understand. Like, sometimes I read labels on, like, things from Ghana and stuff. It's not even legible. It's not legible. You can't read it. There's spelling mistakes. There's no barcode. You don't know manufacture date. You don't know expiration date. You don't know what the ingredients are. They don't even put ingredients there. Because people are like, oh, if I put the ingredients, they'll steal it. Nobody can make your stuff the way you make it. The hope and the plan is to expand into not just food, but everything around food. So like a food culture. So that's why I did the crowdfunding to also gauge people's interests with the pottery and the aprons, and people love that, and they love that it's made back home. And I'm giving directly back to these people. Everything's going straight to them. There's no middleman. And aside from just food and the pottery, we want to also, the sauces and the pottery, we want to also expand into grains. I'm actually going to go to Senegal. I'm going to get salt from there and do like different spice mixes from, let's say, the south, the north, east, and west. Just whatever has to do with African food and highlighting our food and our culture, but especially our culture through food. That's what I wanted to do. I had this cut. It's so funny. So when I first did the design, this whole section, including this clear part, was the pattern.
I see.
And then I showed it to a friend. She was like, it's too much. It's too much African. It's Rwanda.
That's interesting,
And she's like, and they call like African print, they call it kitenge. It's like, what is this kitenge? Kitenge is too much kitenge. And I'm like, okay. And at that time I was, obviously, this is something I'm very close to. So I'm like, what you mean is too much kitenge? Like, I was trying to be very combative. And then I sat down and I thought about what she was saying. Plus, my whole thing is I want the product to show through, like in a window.
Exactly.
So I went back to the design and I said, how do we keep I'm not letting go of my design, but how to make it a little bit just so that it's not so in your face. So it's there, and then you still see the product. So
And I think
it took a lot of time.
You also have to be mindful, like people kind of give feedback. It's
yes.
like understand where they're
coming from. She's a consumer. Right, absolutely.
So I think
because when you're just as you and the designer, the two of you are in there the whole time. You're not getting any feedback from outside. Right. It's just the two of you. And then so when I finally, I was a bit upset. Yeah. And maybe it was the delivery. It wasn't what she said. It was just the way she said it. She was like, too much kitenge, too much kitenge. I'm like, oh my God.
And you're like, it should be about
I know, it should be about like, they need to know like there's kitenge in this stuff, you know. But I think people confuse the way our food and think, no, it's not like, for example, with this magazine, this is great presentation, right? But this is how we eat. So this is all we're saying. You can still make our food look good, but it's the way it's packaged. Yeah. This is exactly how we eat. We eat with our hands. We eat, straight from everybody's eating. Everybody's exactly. But it looks good. Yeah. So this is what it is. And this is traditional. We're not changing anything. Just make it look good. Don't just do things haphazard and don't change the way you are. Yeah. So like, for example, my sauces, I was obviously inspired by the different regions, as I said, but also for the design, I wanted to make sure that the sauces shone through so you could see each of the colors of the sauces, but also I wanted to use patterns from the kente cloth. Yes, yeah. So obviously, as you know, my mom's side, my mom's dad's side is from the Ashanti region. Ghana is known for kente. Kente is from the Bonere region. It's beautiful colors. His weaving is our history. It's for royalty. It's just, pristine. This is like our culture. And so I wanted to translate that into my jars so that even when it's sitting on the shelf, it's speaking for me and speaking for my culture. And so that's why each of them have kente patterns. It was actually designed by a Danish designer. I sent him swatches of kente and I sent him Google images of how kente looks, and I said I want one to be a very bright orange. I want one to be like purplish, bluish, but colors that are mostly found around food. And he came up with this, and we whittled it down, and that's how we came up with the pattern. So I feel like it's telling my story. So people that don't know about kente, they'll see it and say, oh, these are really cool, these are really nice. But people that know about kente will be like, that's it. Nice. So that's what I mean by packaging. It's not, I'm not saying we should change who we are. Whatever you're doing, do it well, but just make it look nice. So we can't not talk about the thing that brings us together as West Africans, but also breaks us together. Jollof. Ghana jollof. The thing with jollof, man, I don't even know why there's even a fight. It's like, okay, make yours, I'll make mine, we'll eat, and it's okay. It should be that way, but it's like, no, mine is better, whatever. Jollof, as we all know, is from Senegal. Yeah. It's from the Wolof people. Yeah. And according to Chef Pierre, who is one of my mentors and heroes, because he's done a lot of research, it's so funny how if you look at all the foods from West Africa, you can mimic exactly those foods in the South of the U.S., which is where all slavery took place. And if you look at, for example, like jambalaya is okra soup. It's okra soup, It's just that when they moved here, they didn't have red palm oil to be using. So how did they do? They'll do it the way, whatever they can get, right? And whatever they can grow. Yeah. So
even grits is like cassava. It's
like
gari.
Exactly. It's like cassava. It's like gari, and it's cornbread, all this stuff. We make things with corn where you bake it. Same thing. Bean cakes. Those are all things straight from the West. So the crazy thing is, when they had slavery from the West Coast of Africa, they brought this really good rice from Senegal, and then they brought it to the South, and that's what we call now the Carolina rice.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay.
And it was so good. It was so healthy. Whatever that's what they brought. They grew it here. And guess what? Then they took all this bad rice, and by the time it got to Senegal, it was all broken up, and that's what they imported. But we have this mentality that whatever the white man is bringing is good. So then in Senegal, they would use broken rice for jollof.
I see.
Even till now, they prefer that to the Carolina rice, which is something that they brought themselves. So it's crazy how like the cycle of food comes around and how everything is related. So with the jollof, I think, you know, everybody do it the way they want.
I'm not gonna knock it. You know, I call myself an honorary Ghanaian.
Yes.
My birthday's the same day as
March
Ghana.
6th.
Yeah.
Yes. You have to show how you are without throwing it in people's faces, but still show who you are and keeping your, you know, your culture and everything.
I think that's our translation of being
Cultural.
multicultural. I think people just be like,
and multi-dimensional.
Exactly.
It's like,
oh, you're just black. I'm like, yeah, I'm just black. But
I'm also African, and I'm also Nigerian.
And I'm also American.
And
yes,
also,
West African.
Yes.
And an African. And like, there are all these different layers to who we are, and I think that's the essence and the beauty of the work that we're doing. So it's like, we're global citizens.
Right.
To see like, okay,
we're not just one thing. Yeah.
And I appreciate that one thing as well too.
Right.
There are different dimensions to who we are as people.
Absolutely.
And that's like what you said earlier. It's important for us to really, really tell and understand our stories.
Yes.
Because that's the only way for others to respect
the story.
So
I had an interview earlier, and they asked me, says, why do I want to tell the African story? Why not somebody else? Because what's happening now is people with money and access are telling our stories for us. And we're there and we're like, wait, that's not our story, or that's not how we should say it. Valentino made this flip-flop, or what you should call flip-flop, but in my language it's called ahinema. It's literally the sandals of kings and queens. And he knocked it off. When I say knock off, I mean like literally ditto. It was exactly as it's made back home, and is selling it for $1,300. Can you imagine? When you can get it for, you know, maybe at the most $50. And then obviously the ones for kings, which have all the gold, that's like a different story. So my thing is, Africans need to tell our story ourselves. Why? Because we tell it authentically, number one. Our story is then related to the people who we're telling the stories about. Imagine somebody coming from outside of your house, hearing what's, you know, what conversation is going on, and then coming into your house to come and tell the story. Imagine that's what's happening now. We don't need foreigners who have all this money and access and all that to just come take our food and then package it and then sell it. And that's why people need to support Africans that are doing something about telling our stories. So if you see someone telling our story, whether it's through music or through food or through media or through journalism, writing, you need to support them, because what's happening is they're literally whitewashing our story and they're making it their own. It's not coming from us.
And as we sort of close up and wrap up, one question is, I always ask people, what does failure mean to you?
So failure to me means I'm on the path. I'm going forward. I tried, I failed, next. So that's what it is for me.
As we close off, what inspires you? What motivates you?
What inspires me is obviously feeding people inspires me, and then travel inspires me. What motivates me is my mother. My mother is my motivation. This woman calls me every single day, and sometimes all she wants to say is, "How are you?" And I say, "I'm okay. All right, I'll talk to you later." That's all. That's all. So it's not glamorous. It's just chasing your dream. If you feel that you've accomplished what you came to this earth for, and when you're doing it and you just feel in your soul that this is why I'm here, that is success to me. So for me, I feel I'm doing that, and that's why I wake up every day, and that's why I'm excited to do what I do, because I know, you know, I'm not Einstein, I'm not Ford, but I'm Essie, and I'm doing Essie Spice. Essie Spice would not exist if my sister was not with me. It's a community literally of women that are like, we know you want to do this, and we know this is what you want, we're gonna help you. And another friend, Clementine, I don't know if you know her, but Clementine is the lady who read my story online, did not know me, invited me over, met with the editors of Cooking Light, and then, you know, she didn't know I would get on it. She just said, you know what, let me introduce you. And then from there, you know, they take it from there. And, but sometimes you need that person that will get you in front of people. It's a literally a village that's holding me up. And that's the reason why I'm here. People are like, oh my gosh, she's always smiling. She's always happy. No, I just have people that make sure that I'm always smiling and I'm always happy. So that's, that's my support.
It's just, for me, I'm just like, every time I hear these stories, one of those things where, you know, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Because just sharing stories like yourself is just truly inspirational, because we're all on this journey.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, what's the end goal? Like, all this is like a drug. It's like,
it's a drug.
You get to one thing, you're like, okay, I need the next high.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
And it's just, it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
So I wish you nothing but success.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Eye of Africa. Thank you, Essie Bartels.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and your words of wisdom.
Thank you.
And until the next one, take care.
Go.